Hello and welcome back to Worksite Wellness 101. My name is Becky Vinton and I'm with WELLCOM, and today we're going to be talking about the third module of Worksite Wellness 101, which is assessments and data collection. Beth Perney is going to be presenting that section, but before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone that these modules are created for you to share with your wellness committee or with your entire wellness team when you're teaching and training the committee on how to integrate a results-driven program. These benchmarks are created to be very sequential in process, and so these modules are created from a high level and just to provide you the highlights of each component so that you can share this information with your entire wellness committee. As you know, WELLCOM is a nonprofit organization and we've been around for over 32 years. Here in Omaha, we were founded by 4 companies: Central States Indemnity, Union Pacific, Valmont, and Mutual of Omaha. And the 4 companies created WELLCOM to help businesses implement results-driven wellness programs so that we can focus on the entire culture and the practices that individuals make to better themselves and their health within the worksite. Today's agenda is that we will be covering the third module, as I mentioned, which is assessments and data collection. But if you have not had a chance to view the other modules, the 5 include the first one, which is making the business case for worksite wellness. The second module was leadership and culture. The third is assessments and data. The 4th module is program planning and implementation, and the 5th module is program evaluation. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Beth Perney, who will be talking about module number 3, data assessment and data collection.
Thank you, Becky. As you can see on the screen there, data collection fits right into the middle of our process with Worksite Wellness 101. So making the business case helps us really understand why is it important to address health and wellness at the workplace. Module number 2, leadership and culture, really establishes the importance of having that support from the top level of the organization and creating a culture where it's easy for employees to make healthy choices at work. And then the third piece here is data collection. And this is key because the next module, as you see there in module number 4, will be planning and implementation. And we aren't able to plan a successful and strategic program without collecting data first. So the data collection piece is an important component. And the process of worksite health assessment really helps us gather information about the factors that support or hinder the health and safety of the employees. So if you've listened to the first module at this point, building the business case, we really outlined the fact that there are several factors that play into the success of an employee wellness program, and assessing the health of the employees and kind of the worksite overall really helps us identify what are those risk factors that people are experiencing, and also just kind of a snapshot of what's the current status of employee health. Data collection is necessary. It really drives the health improvement planning process, resource allocation. So if we know there are certain areas that are more of a risk for employees than others, then we can really design our program and resources around that knowledge. It also helps create a strategic program, and that's one thing that we really highlight at WELLCOM is the importance of being strategic with our efforts at the workplace. And then also it helps us really plan for outcomes evaluation. So if we know where we started, we're able to see the outcomes and the impact that the wellness program is having at the organization and among individual employees. So assessment really helps answer some key questions. And as you can see there, we want to really understand what are the health and safety issues affecting employees, what are the factors that are impacting their health, and what are their concerns, what are their interests, what are they most focused on within their own employee health. And then as we answer those questions, we're able to help identify what the program planning priorities should be. So based on that information, we can determine, what should be the most important components of the wellness program at a specific organization, because it's not really a cookie cutter, one size fits all plan. It's really determined by the data that we collect for each organization. So when you're collecting data at your company, there are some specific pieces that you'll want to make sure to focus on. So demographic data is kind of just your general, who are our employees? What are their gender, age, education, marital status, job classification, things like that. Really just asking that who are they question. And then organizational data really helps us focus on the company. So specifically, what policies are in place related to the employee health, and the wellness program, what are the practices? So sometimes there are policies in place, but then there are different practices that might not be written in as policies, but they're common and really impact the culture of the organization. And then also a culture audit. So what do the employees kind of experience by working there? And then individual data would be things like a health risk assessment, biometrics. So maybe it's blood pressure, cholesterol, things like that. And then also interests. So it's important to know what are people interested in terms of the wellness program and what might they be hoping that would be offered as an initiative within the program at work. And then also insurance claims. That's an important piece of information to gather as well. We can think about medical claims, pharmaceutical claims, workers' compensation, disability, things like that. So those are all things that kind of help us understand the costs that the organization might be experiencing based on the health of the employees. And it's kind of interesting that 20% of participants will make changes based on receiving a personal health report. Sometimes that's even without other interventions. So sometimes just the act of completing a health risk assessment and receiving information about that can motivate some people to make some changes. So it's important to be able to take that information at an aggregate level and see what participants are receiving on those reports as a whole, and then plan programs that really help address the topics that are most the most frequent risks for them as a group. So here are some tips for data collection. You definitely want to maintain HIPAA compliance, so we never release individual data. People are pretty used to that at this point. It's important to stress confidentiality. So sometimes employees are very uncomfortable with the employer knowing things about them. That's just kind of a natural challenge that we face in this field. So stressing the confidentiality piece is important. If the employees hear from the health promotion professional, the wellness coordinator, the wellness team leader that this information is confidential, we're gathering this to create the best program we can for our organization. No one at the organization is going to see your answers or know your risk factors specifically. It can be really comforting for the employees that might be uncomfortable with that. And then we'd also want to avoid over-surveying employees. So if you're looking to create an interest survey to gather information on what employees might be interested in terms of offerings through the Worksite Wellness Program, and you're also going to implement a health risk assessment, it's great to combine those questions so it's one survey in the eyes of the employees, and they can just do it one time and not feel like they're being asked to complete survey after survey. And then along those lines, we don't want to collect data that we don't intend to use. So it's important to think ahead of time, what information do we really want to gather from our employees, and then only ask those questions so people don't kind of feel inundated and overwhelmed with the amount of information that's being gathered. And then when it comes to reporting data, we want to objectively report the information and share results with employees so that they understand, okay, this is the information that was gathered, this is what we learned from it as a whole, and this is how we're responding to that and creating a program that supports that. It really helps employees understand why they're being asked the questions, and the fact that their input is really important in creating the best program for that organization. And then we also want to keep reports relevant and weave the reporting into the company's process that already exists. So if there's an annual report that the organization completes every year, weave the wellness information right into that report. So it's all part of kind of the reports that employees are already seeing. We talk a lot about the importance of building the wellness program into the way the company operates already, and so creating reports that just are woven right into existing communication practices can be really helpful with that. And then this slide really highlights the importance of balancing needs and interests. So it's important to recognize what are the biggest needs, the highest needs for the organization overall, and then also what are the biggest interests, what do employees care about? And when we can balance the needs and the interests, then we're setting our program up for success. So a few takeaways when it comes to data collection and assessment. It's important to remember that data drives the health improvement planning process. So we don't want to create a strategic plan for our program until we have data to back it up and to make decisions based on that data. Data also establishes the baseline. So if we can collect information early, then we're able to collect it over time and determine, what outcomes we're seeing with the program and also what are the trends that we're seeing among our employees. And then also it's important to balance employee interests with organizational needs in order to create a program that's successful for the employees and also for the organization as a whole. And then link results to organizational performance and really just building the wellness program in as a component consistent with the rest of the way the company operates. So what can you do at your organization? You can determine what are the current sources of data that are available. A lot of times, wellness coordinators or the wellness team leaders have access to data that's already being collected, maybe through the HR department or things like that. So identifying, what sources are already available, and then collect data that's needed utilizing multiple sources. So we can gather information from employees in a variety of ways. We can do surveys, we can do focus groups, we can ask them to provide information in a variety of ways. So determine kind of what makes sense for your organization, and then set a timeline for data collection that's built in conjunction with the timing of the plan. So if you know you'll be creating a strategic plan for the wellness program that will operate on a calendar year, you'll want to make sure that the data collection happens before that. So perhaps we collect data in the summer and fall, build the program plan for the upcoming year, and then be able to roll it out when January begins. So just kind of thinking backwards in terms of how the data collection can happen in time for that strategic planning process. And then consistently communicate to leadership and employees. So if we're asking for feedback and input and information from employees, we want to make sure that we're communicating back to them what we're benefiting from as a wellness team and how we're able to use their information and how it's crucial to creating that strategic program. So WELLCOM is here to help. If you have questions about this particular module or any of the other modules we're covering in this mini series, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to provide this training on site at your organization if that's something that would be beneficial for your wellness committee. And we also hope you're able to attend in person the next time we offer it as well. So contact us anytime. Thanks.